I'm Eric, and my research is about the correlation between anonymity and toxicity in video games in the Philippines. Why did I pick this topic? I've played a lot of Mobile Legends since its launch back in 2016, and in my time playing the game, I've mostly encountered toxic people in the chat, leading me to either block them or turn off the chat. It was distracting and added nothing to the game, and so I thought, if this research will be my first and last, I'd want to try to make video games a much nicer and accepting space. There's this preconceived notion that anonymity is one of the reasons why video games and the internet as a whole is a toxic place. And so I wondered, what would happen if we removed anonymity? If gamers used their real names, would they still use gamer words? If I find that there is a correlation between anonymity and toxic behaviors, then using real names should have an effect. It won't solve the problem entirely, but I think it's a step in the right direction. What's the problem if people want to be toxic? They're not really hurting anyone, it's all jokes. They're just enjoying themselves, right? Well, according to Kordiaka, toxic behaviors drives newcomers away. And in my experience, if newcomers are leaving the game after only a few hours of playtime, then the game eventually dies. There's no population growth and no player retention. This means wasted development costs and game companies losing profits. To try to combat this, game companies decided to band together and create the Fair Play Alliance. Today it has 180 companies under its flag, all to advocate for a healthy gaming environment and, of course, to protect their bottom line. What exactly are toxic behaviors? According to Brennan, it's a negative and upsetting act, which in the online space may include swearing and insults through messages or voice over IP. But why does toxic behaviors occur? The preconceived notion that I mentioned earlier, apparently it's called the de-individuation theory. It states that anonymity encourages or protects negative behaviors because an offender has the option to metaphorically hide in the crowd. On the internet, I'd say this is akin to remaking accounts and starting over, where no one knows your history. The second theory I found is the attribution theory. It states that people are likely to look for a reason other than oneself for failure, a scapegoat. This is very apparent especially in competitive games like Mobile Legends. People are always blaming each other, never themselves. The third theory is the social cognitive theory. The theory states that belief in one's skills, positive reinforcement from peers, and environmental determinants or norms all influence behavior. In my own words, the theory basically describes ego and how it can inflate. The fourth theory is the theory of planned behavior. This theory examines the person's intentions anticipated by three antecedents: peer acceptance, the norm with peer pressure, and the difficulty of performing the act. This theory has similarities to the previous theory. The difference is that it looks at how difficult it is to act. And as the de-individuation theory implies, being toxic is not hard if you're anonymous. The fifth and last theory is the online disinhibition effect. This theory states that we have less inhibitions during online interactions. And this reduced inhibition is due to 6 factors: anonymity, invisibility or not seeing who you're interacting with, asynchronous communication or delayed communication, solipsistic introjection or communicating with no facial expressions, dissociative imagination or the perception of being in another reality with different rules, and minimization of authority or the belief that on the internet everyone is equal. Of all the theories, I think for the study the de-individuation theory is the most appropriate. This is echoed by Zimbardo's experiments where he found that anonymously dressed women would shock Confederates longer than the control group. His findings during his equally controversial Stanford prison experiment also corroborates this. But that's in real life. What about on the interwebs? To answer the research question, I've decided to gather data from game streams since the people who watch the streams are also the ones playing the games themselves. I will use the quantitative methodology. Data will be collected through naturalistic observation, where I will observe and analyze the uploaded videos on demand or VODs of the live streams, along with a downloaded chat transcript of the stream, just in case the VODs get edited or they go down entirely. Now the question is, what game stream am I going to observe and analyze? Well, it just so happens that the annual professional league for Mobile Legends just concluded back in May this year, and they streamed the event simultaneously on both Facebook and YouTube. Facebook, known for being populated with real users, while YouTube has more anonymous users. And gathering data from 2 or more platforms is what I was advised to do, because I can compare and contrast the data that I get from both streaming sites to get a more accurate picture. The professional league lasted for 5 days, so that means I have 10 videos to analyze. Each stream lasted for around 6 to 10 hours and has 20,000 to 100,000 comments each. The following I haven't finalized yet with my advisor. While gathering data, the users will be categorized into two different kinds, real or anonymous, and further into real user and semi-real user for real, and completely anonymous user and semi-anonymous user for anonymous. Real users must have a real photo and a real name. A real photo is not a photo of a famous person or a fictional character, and a real name must have a Filipino-sounding first and last name, and must not be of a famous person or a fictional character. Additionally, to be considered a real user, they must have at least one friend who shares their last name. Meanwhile, for semi-real users, they must have real photos and real names, but they don't need to have a friend who shares their last name. This is mostly for those profiles that are private or does not display their list of friends, followers, or the list of who they're following. A semi-anonymous user is someone who either has a fake name or a fake picture. And finally, a completely anonymous user has both fake names and fake pictures. That's just for Facebook. It's a little bit harder to determine the user's degree of anonymity on YouTube because each message doesn't link to their social media profile, or a simple Facebook search of their name will not result to their actual profile. So I have to rely on Google search to find their profiles. It can be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or any other social media website that displays both name and photo. But nonetheless, the idea is the same as Facebook's categories. The only difference is I have to look for their profiles manually. Now for the toxic behaviors. It will be categorized into two different kinds as well, malicious or not malicious. Whether it is malicious or not, the message can fall under profanity, insult, unnecessary, or sexual. Examples of profanity is the ever-famous PI word, the T word, and the G word. Examples of insult can range from saying you're dumb to adding letters to someone's name to make it an insult, like Carl TZ, a player's in-game name turned into Carl Chonky or something. Unnecessary comments are for fart and poop comments or jokes. They exist and there are quite a few of them. And sexual comments are inappropriate comments that are about body parts and what people would like to do to them. However, if the comment is found to be not malicious, it can be further categorized into three. Expletive, which is when you use profanity as a substitute for surprise, for example, PI, what's taking so long to start? No target is when it is unclear who the message is directed towards. These are mostly one-worded messages like stupid, the curse words like PI, T, and G. And finally, joke. This is for when comments are funny. Not attempting to be funny, but actually funny in the context of what's happening in the stream. Most messages categorized as such are ones with a lot of ha-has or endearing comments like PI mo pakbet, you're so good at this game, haha. This is after the player in question kills the whole enemy team solo, which is commendable and is very hard to accomplish. And again, much like user categories, this is not final. It could change depending on my advisor's inputs when she eventually gets back to me. How will I analyze the data? After observing the 10 or however many VODs I managed to observe until October 10, I will then get the percentages of real and anonymous toxic comments, average them for both platforms, and compare the numbers. An example scenario is, if I find that there are more real toxic comments on Facebook than there is anonymous toxic comments on YouTube, then perhaps the de-individuation theory does not apply on the online environment. Anonymous or not, being toxic comes naturally to Filipino gamers. And so perhaps the social cognitive theory and the attribution theory is applicable instead. Filipino gamers have high egos. They believe in themselves and that they can never do wrong. That they must blame a different person for their mistakes, whether they're anonymous or not. As for findings, based on the preliminary data, the percentage of toxic comments are much lower than I expected. 20% to 30% is what I was expecting, but it actually just falls under 5% at most. So that means 95% of comments are clean and wholesome. I've also found that there are 1% more toxic comments on YouTube compared to Facebook. For now, it seems that the individuation theory holds. I'm hoping to find that after all the analysis, the individuation theory holds. So perhaps a solution to try to chip at the problem is for users to display their real names to simulate real-life consequences, or to make it harder for users to create accounts, like requiring a phone number or biometrics to make one. Hopefully, this study influences other solutions or other studies like it that aims to make the internet a much better place. Thank you.